Hi, I'm JK.
And I'm Zoe, and we are Inspired by Travel.
Today we're going to talk to you about our top 10 desert hiking tips.
Our first tip is to always check the weather, especially for flash floods. As someone who was not much of a hiker before I met JK, I had no idea that flash flooding was something you had to worry about in the driest climates, but it actually is, and it can be incredibly dangerous.
Especially if you're going into any areas with slot canyons, you definitely want to make sure to check the weather before going out there as well as the day of, because even though you may be in the desert, a storm passing far away can send a flash flood hundreds of miles potentially and impact you when you may not even expect it. Our second important tip for desert hiking is to make sure you're bringing lots of water. Now, again, this is important really anytime you're going out hiking, but especially if you're in a dry or hot environment, bringing water is a life-saving measure. It's absolutely crucial because without enough water, you can quickly become dehydrated. And even if you think you have enough water, you may be surprised in a dry environment just how quickly you drink that.
I used to be very lazy about wanting to carry my own water bottle, and I thought, oh, JK has a big enough canteen for both of us. Learn the hard way. No. Always bring your own.
Those backpacks that also carry water can be helpful in terms of giving you a convenient place to carry your water. However, you're not really able to see how much water you have left. And so it makes it harder to ration your water throughout your time outside when you don't really know exactly how much water you have left. So while those can be convenient, I would definitely encourage you to make sure that you're aware of how much water you're consuming at all times. And the easiest way for me to do that is to have a clear plastic or a clear container that you are able to easily see how much water you have left for your time outside.
Number 3. Hike earlier in the day or later in the evening to avoid extreme temperatures when you're hiking in the desert.
So seasonally, this could be more or less of an issue. If you're going in the hot part of the year, you definitely want to pay attention to this. In the cooler part of the years, it may not be as big of a factor, but certainly when we were in Death Valley, for example, we were expecting to do this hike in the middle of the day, and the guy told us no, because even when the sun starts to set, all the rocks have been absorbing this heat all day, and it's going to be incredibly hot and even unsafe. So if you are looking to do some of these more extreme environments early in the morning before the sun has had a chance to heat the earth up, or sometimes later in the evening, can be the best opportunity to have the most comfortable temperatures while you're hiking in these extreme environments. This brings us to tip number 4, which is to do higher elevation hikes during the hotter parts of the day. We learned again in Death Valley National Park that for about every 1,000 feet of elevation you go up, you're going to lose about 5 degrees in the temperature. So this means that while lower elevation hikes might be incredibly hot or uncomfortable, if you're able to go up a few thousand feet, you can find a climate that is much more comfortable even during the middle of the day. So you can maximize your time in these environments and avoid some of the hotter times by going to higher elevation. And then when it cools down, you can do some of the lower elevation hikes.
Yeah, we ended up going to Dante's View, and that was absolutely the right call. It was insane, the weather difference, how much cooler it felt up there during that 2, 3, 4 p.m. time frame. So we had a great time, and then when the sun was setting, that's when we went to the Badwater Basin, which was the lowest point, and then it was comfortable enough for us to breathe. Tip number 5, bring snacks that won't melt. When you're in 100, 103 degree weather,
120,
you can't bring your chocolate trail mix as much as you would love to.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure that you're keeping your energy up while you're out hiking, and so, bringing snacks with you is a great way to do that, but yeah, you might want to think about snacks that are not going to turn into a pile of goop in your bag and make a huge mess when you want to get them. So things like clementines or those little applesauce pouches, things like that. Whatever your favorite snacks are, bring some of those along, but yeah, you may want to save some of the more melty snacks for later in the day. So tip number 6 is to wear a hat that has a wide brim. When you're in a lot of these desert environments, it can be very hot. Now, there are some deserts that are very cold, but you still have a lot of exposure to the sun typically. And so whether it's hot or cold, you want to be protecting yourself from that UV radiation, and the best way to do that is to have a nice wide-brimmed hat.
I will admit that I sometimes make fun of JK's hat choices, especially because he wears one that has a little tie that ties to his chin. But I did learn the hard way in the desert when I had to go running after my hat, that with the winds, there's a point. There's a point to the unattractive tie.
I mean, you know, plenty of cool people have worn hats with ties through the years. But yeah, if you are, you know, going to be wearing a big hat, if you have a tie to secure it, you can make sure that it doesn't end up blowing away from you and careening through the Badwater Basin as you go running after it, trying to catch it before it becomes a permanent fixture on the desert landscape.
Tip number 7, protect your skin with UV blocking clothes.
So similar to what we were talking about with having a hat to protect you from the sun, it is very important to protect the rest of your body from overexposure to sun as well, especially if you burn very easily like I do. They are lightweight, they are going to protect your skin from the heat of the sun radiation, as well as making sure that when you are done with your time outside, you are not going to be feeling the after effects of that sunburn. So it will help keep you cool, it will help keep you comfortable, and it will help keep you safe when you're out in the desert.
They have them in all sorts of different colors so that you can feel a little bit more stylish when you wear them. And they have this little flap in the back, so it works really well if you get like sweaty and you want to kind of open that flap up to let some air in. It works well, I have to admit.
Another important bonus tip for you is to make sure that you're hydrating your skin. You're not just hydrating internally, but you are putting some sort of lotion, some sort of rehydrating balm, if you will, onto your skin, because you will get dry. Your lips will get chapped, your skin will get dry, and it's important to make sure that you are moisturizing, not just staying hydrated internally, but you are moisturizing your skin, you're moisturizing your lips, and you're really taking care of yourself, because a desert will just suck all that moisture right out of you, and you want to make sure that you're taking care of your skin and the rest of your body.
That brings us to tip number 8, which is to also bring a scarf to be able to cover your face. My skin and my face after being in the desert without a scarf on the first day was so dry and uncomfortable. All that wind blowing that sand onto your face and getting into your sinuses and in your mouth, it's painful to the point where I was having nosebleeds. So having that scarf and having that extra protection, especially when the wind is blowing, is crucial.
Yeah, there's so many fine particulates, bits of sand, bits of dust that can get blown around in that desert wind. And if you're hiking behind a couple people and it's a dry environment, every step they take could be kicking up little bits of dust that may be blowing right back to you. So to make sure that, again, you're having the most comfortable experience that you can while you're out hiking in the desert, it's always a good idea just to have some sort of scarf or some sort of protection you can pull up to cover your nose and mouth, and make sure that you're not eating anybody's dust. Tip number 9 is to make sure that you have a nice pair of sunglasses to take with you as well. You are going to get lots of bright sunlight potentially that can be reflecting off different surfaces, so you want that protection not just from the light, but also once again from that wind.
And our last tip, tip number 10, wear hiking boots. I at first was not planning on doing that because I've got some really comfortable just hiking tennis shoes that I like to wear. But then when JK mentioned, you know, the off chance we would run into a rattlesnake or a scorpion, I decided that having a little extra foot protection was a good idea.
There's also cacti, there's also rocks, there's also all sorts of other things that could easily get into your shoes or poke through a thinner shoe material and cause you lots of issues while you're out hiking. So in order to get a little bit more protection, not just from the wildlife, but from the environment itself, having a nice pair of hiking boots is a great idea. Also, I think that it provides a little bit more ankle support than your typical shoe, and when you're going up and down elevations on unsteady terrain, it can be very helpful to make sure that you have that extra ankle support so you feel like you're protected, you feel like you're safe, and you feel like you can go anywhere that you might want to go while you're out hiking.
Yeah, as an absolute ankle twister, having the extra ankle support was crucial for how much we were climbing up rocks and sandy terrain, which is more slippery, and just in general, a good idea.
So we're happy to share our desert hiking tips with you. Hopefully they can help you as you're preparing to go out into a desert environment to be able to make the most of your time there and have the best experience that you can. If you have any questions about any of the tips we shared, or if you have some tips of your own that you'd like to share with us, please reach out and let us know. Thank you very much, and keep checking back to see more tips and more videos from us.
We're inspired by travel. We go lots of places together. JK and Zoe, we go lots of places. We love it.